This has massive implications on the San Jose Sharks' future as Sam Dickinson has just made history for the London Knights with his recent performance, and a little look towards the draft as there is a certain player available that Mike Grier could take that could change the entire direction of what is already an incredible rebuild. We had a bunch to dive into coming up on this episode of Sharks Digest, but just a quick reminder that a ton of you guys are still not subscribed. We got San Jose Sharks videos all season long, all off season long. You'll want to stick around for all of it. Mark, let's dive right into the video. And why not start with Sam Dickinson? This guy has been unbelievable. And the San Jose Sharks, of course, looking at defense, this is something we need moving forward. And we'll talk about that even more a bit later. But he's officially rewrote the history books as he has the most single season points by a defenseman in franchise history. Straight up. The most points ever by a defenseman in a single season in London Knights history. That's a historic, storied franchise. 87 points. If you haven't been keeping up with Sam Dickinson, you better. Remember, 6'3", somehow slipped to 11th overall, 87 points, 28 goals in 54 games. I mean, I didn't know what I expected from him this year, Mark. Last year was mind-blowing in and of itself, and I was honestly shocked that he slipped to us at 11. But to see his follow-up performance this year, I know a lot of Sharks fans are already talking about him, but I feel like somehow it's still understated how impressive this is.
I mean, the biggest thing is looking at last year alone, we looked at this guy as the steal of the draft, and coming into this year, 28 goals, 59 assists for 87 points. Sam Dickinson has been turning up, leading the entire London Knights in scoring. And as you can see, everyone below him until you pretty much get down to Oliver Bunk are all forwards, and he's still above all these players with nearly almost 10 plus points on all these guys having 28 goals, which I think is the leader looking down through this. I mean, Sam Dickinson has been incredible for the London Knights. We've seen him in the World Juniors as well, and he's just a complete player ready to join the Shark team. I mean, looking at Sam Dickinson, do you think there's a chance maybe in training camp he really does impress this team to make the Sharks opening night roster?
I mean, like, look, as we're going to talk about in a bit, the competition on D is like, it's not that stiff. Like, look, there's a couple of worries about bringing in a guy too early. I mean, look, it's that age-old story of, is it bad if we rush him, or if the spot's available to get him the most NHL experience as early as he can, do you just let him have it? Like, again, we still have Ferraro, but there's no guarantee that he's going to even stick out till the end of next year in San Jose, right? There were talks about trading him this year. Who knows if he'll be traded in the offseason or come next year? We don't really know. Of course, Vlasic's not getting any younger. Like, right now, like, we had Jimmy Schultz there. Like, there's a possibility that he slots in next year. I think he could show that he's good enough to be on this team right now, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself, right? Because a lot of these guys coming out of the O, they need a bit of time to develop in the AHL. I mean, sending them to the CUDA is really not a bad idea either. But Mark, at the same time, he's going to be 19 coming into training camp next year, and it's like, if he really warrants that spot, is it worth it? I mean, what do you think? I think there's a chance, but I don't want to rush the guy. But at the same time, like, if the Sharks need help and he genuinely looks like the best option, why not go for it?
I mean, the biggest thing is looking at him. I think he's proved everything he needs to in the OHL, and I don't think it makes sense for his development. Yes, he could go back and dominate again. Maybe he scores 40 goals in the OHL, but I don't see the world where he continues to get better. And yes, he will continue to get better, but I think he would benefit being up in the AHL or the NHL at the very least. I mean, this is a guy that's dominated, as I said, looking at a scouting report coming in. He's not only out there for offensive, just explosiveness, he's also someone that's great on the defensive rush. He can shut down guys. He's awesome on both sides. He's looking like a future star on this back end. And I mean, like you said, looking at the defense, they have some guys on the Barracuda that could come up, but I think there is a big realm that maybe we do see him even stationed on that second pairing as early as next season.
It's crazy. And honestly, throw some PP time as well. Like, why not, right? Like, this dude is a scoring machine. Like, can we just reiterate how he's second on his entire team in goals? He's a defenseman, and he has 28 goals. The team leader is Landon Sim, who has 30. And Landon Sim is 2 years older than Sam Dickinson playing center. I don't know. I feel like I could go on forever about how good he is. Not to mention he's tied for the heaviest guy here with Oliver Bonk. Like, like, he's a big dude. He's got the NHL ready body. He's got the NHL ready scoring. What is there not to love about Sam Dickinson? I mean, let us know your thoughts on him down below, because honestly, it's maybe not unprecedented, but kind of is. I mean, look, he just broke a record, a London Knights record. So I feel like unprecedented is a very fair word to use in this case. But look, we're talking about the future of the Sharks defense, and Sam Dickinson is the big piece of that right now. I mean, you look there, Mook's had some decent games. He's been playing a lot of minutes, but like, other than that, there's not a ton. There's some stuff going on, stewing in the CUDA, like, whatever. But when we look towards the future, I mean, look, all eyes are on the 2025 NHL draft. And it's no secret that San Jose has the top odds at the number one pick. That is what it is this year. The Sharks have the worst record in the league as of right now. It's looking fairly likely that they'll end the season that way with the roster they're rolling with right now. But the 2025 draft has a certain special prospect, Mark, and I know you have some thoughts on him. Look, as we're going into this 2025 draft, there's a lot of names right there near the top. But there's a certain name in Matthew Schaefer that's on a lot of people's minds. What are your thoughts on Matthew Schaefer? And I know we've talked about this a bit before on the channel, him and maybe some other guys, but especially with Sam Dickinson coming up, do you feel like that could be a legit option?
I mean, the biggest thing is, listen, the Sharks team have the forward depth. I mean, we see this team, Celebrini and Will Smith, both recently drafted. There's so many young guys on this team. They still have young guys not within the system, but I think the biggest problem is filling out the defensive end. And I mean, bringing in a guy like Schaefer is exactly what you need. A 6'2". He's still very young, looking like maybe not fully the consensus number one, but a shutdown defenseman that can join this team. Maybe Sam Dickinson or Schaefer end up playing their offside to play with each other in the future. But my biggest thing is, listen, this Sharks team, when you look at the back end, picture this in 3 to 4 years with Dickinson and Schaefer filling in those top two lines. I think that makes this team so much better, filling them out with Celebrini, the likes of all their prospects. I don't know if there's someone on this list you would rather, Josh, but I think Schaefer is the safe bet and the perfect piece for this team.
Yeah, I think I was being mild when I asked you if you thought this could be a realistic option, because to me, there is no other option. Like, if you got the first overall pick, this is the guy. There's a reason most outlets, you can see here, feel free to pause and look at all the outlets that have him there right at the top of their draft class. Like, it's one thing to say, oh, we're drafting for fit. And it's one thing to say, oh, draft best player available. You could easily make the argument, and honestly, I would make the argument that at number one, yeah, I know he was injured. I know there are some question marks about that, but he's had World Junior stuff. We've seen him so far in the OHL look dominant. Like, at the end of the day, I think the argument for right now is Matthew Schaefer looks like he should be the number one overall pick, and he feels a positional need for the San Jose Sharks. You can never have too many good defensemen in your system, because a lot of these guys either take a little longer to pan out. But when you have a guy that has the ceiling that Matthew Schaefer has, let alone a team that already has a prospect in Sam Dickinson who's coming along incredibly well, with multiple spots probably on the left side of their defense opening up in the very near future, with no other guys really ready to steal that spotlight. I'm a big fan of Michael Misa. I'm not super sold on James Higgins, though maybe some of you guys are. Porter Martone's a big body and is putting up some points too. Yeah, there's a lot of great guys on this list, right? But when it comes to the number one overall pick, hey, even if the Sharks get 2 or 3, my eyes are on Matthew Schaefer. And honestly, you'll have to pry him away from my cold dead hands if you can, because if there's any odds that the Sharks, our Jaws might as well, if there's any odds the Sharks can get him, I don't see anyone else.
And I mean, the biggest thing is, listen, if they don't get the number one pick, if someone else gets it and they draft Schaefer, I mean, Misa's a very good consolation prize. Having 126 points, 59 goals in 62 games, they're going to get a generational, maybe not generational, a franchise guy in this draft. And I know it's very early to say these guys are still 17 to 18 years old, but they're going to get a very good piece to fill in on either the defense or the forward group. And this Sharks team, I don't see a world, Josh, where they're not one of the best teams in the NHL in the next 3 to 4 years with what they have now and the prospects coming through the system.
That's been the whole idea. That's been what Mike Grier has been doing. Look, there's been a lot of great trades, some questionable ones. We see how Stapchuk there, though Fabian Zetterlund's not exactly thriving in Ottawa so far. So, hey, I guess the jury's still out on that one. But when it comes to the draft, we're just going to have to wait and see. We've hit some pretty nice hits recently, so just hoping that can continue in 2025. But let us know your thoughts. What do you think about Sam Dickinson and Matthew Schaefer being a pairing in the future, or just at least both playing for the Sharks? Or is there another name in the draft that you'd like to target first? Listen, that'll do it for this episode of Sharks Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, guys. We appreciate all your support every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.